So away we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today by taking a look at some snips from the news and having a little bit of discussion, a little dialogue with those of you who have chosen to join us in the live portion. And of course, you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Coffee Talk, and Prepper University. And that is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Gee, special thanks to Restream for the really, really campy AI music they stuck me with today. Sounds like a 80s wannabe, like, detective drama there. As I go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in so far on the channel to say hello. And I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see. I see Tuck is here, as well as Helter, Dragon, Brian, and Puck is here. It says Puck, SCOTUS torpedoed lawfare efforts against Trump. And joined by one feline here today. You may or may not be able to see him sleeping in the chair behind me. There's the little guy, the newest edition, sitting in the chair behind me. I also have Dusty. I don't think anyone has seen Dusty for a while. There she is. Oh, what's wrong, Dusty? You were doing something? You were doing something? She was doing something. She was looking out of the window, actually. Looking out of the window, there's Dusty. One last look. I think she wants to be put down. There you go. Anyways, as we get back here, wrap up a couple more and then we'll move on. War Queen is here. It says, change the type of litter and no more sneezing. From there you go. It was probably an upper respiratory problem based on the level of dust that might have been in the litter, because that can cause them a lot of issues. Bob is here, as well as Rodney. Rodney made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way towards helping the felines. As you may be aware, we're up to 20 now. 20 now, and we're hindered as far as getting any adoptions done because the person who runs Halo House was in the hospital. Gary Edwards is here. Moki is here. Fluke Man. Puck says their black cat turned to see who that was meowing. There you go. And that's Life is here as well. And we'll go ahead and start jumping off. And, you know, the big thing here, of course, has been that disaster of a debate. Actually, I thought that Trump was rather well behaved. Considering, and bit his tongue a couple of times. And so kudos for him for sitting on his hands, as it were, because, you know, when he gets real irate, that's when people start to not like him. So it was smart for him to button it up a little bit. And it could be that he just felt bad for old Joe. Maybe he's looking at him and he's like, God, this guy is just not out. It wouldn't even be fair to pick on him at this point. Fluke Man says Thursday is the UK election for the next prime minister. And something coming up, too. They just did the elections in Paris, and Paris is burning again. Paris is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. But New York Post article, Jill Biden helps Joe off stage after disastrous debate showing this says it all. And I'm sure some of you have heard the argument about the golf. I thought that was hilarious. We're going to sit there and fight about golf. And I bet you can't carry your own golf bag. I don't think Joe can carry a golf bag. I don't know why he would say that. I don't know why he would say that in the first place. But I mean, Trump mentioned golf as an example, and then Biden took it as a challenge, and it got weird for a minute, talking about that his handicap is a 6, which would put him in league with like it would put him in league with some of the best golfers on the planet. So that's kind of ridiculous. You saw Trump starting to laugh just when he said that. I'll show the video clip here in a moment. First Lady Biden assisted her husband Joe Biden off the debate stage Thursday night after a performance that raised even more questions about the president's fitness for office. CNN's cameras captured the 81-year-old president's wife taking her husband by the hand and slowly leading him down the stage 3 or so steps after his showdown with former President Trump had wrapped up. Who is the commander-in-chief? Representative Chip Roy wrote on X, sharing a close-up view of Jill Biden's assistants. Now, I had mentioned already that he had white-knuckled that podium all night. He clung to it, probably to keep his balance. And they showed in the video clip, and I'm gonna open this video clip here in a second if it's properly. I don't know if it's gonna work. But they showed Trump walk off stage. They showed him walking off stage. And then they panned back to Biden. And Biden needed assistance. She pried him off of the podium. And I'll expand this here in a second and show the video clip. Sven says he can't carry his own poop. He does in the little diaper. That's the rumor. I don't know if he wears anything. Let me get this going here so that you can watch if you haven't seen it.
Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign, the earliest presidential debate ever, now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word on what those voters might make of it from our political professionals.
And they've really blurred this because I saw a very clear image. The man on the left behind the boom light is pointing. He's pointing at the step to show him where to come down. He's moving very slowly, and Jill has his arm and is leading him.
Martin and Flagpole and Swing State Focus Group.
He steps sideways down the step.
Fact checks from Daniel Dale and new reporting from inside the campaign with me here, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield, David Urban, Van Jones, Alyssa Farr Griffin.
And they said 3 steps, but I only saw 1. So I don't know if it's really 3 or how that works. Gary Edwards says his favorite Biden gap is that he beat Medicare. He sure did. As Trump said, beat it to death. Actually, my favorite is that when he took office, it was 50% unemployment. We talked about that at length on Friday because that's impossible. The highest unemployment has ever been in the United States is about 25.5, which was right at the very height of the Great Depression. And when he took office, it was just below 4%, which is about average. It averages in the United States. It hovers between 3 and 4. It goes up and down all the time. And the highest unemployment rate in a recognized country, that is a country that is observed by the United Nations, because there are others that the United Nations pretends don't exist. But the highest rate in the recognized nations is South Africa at 28.5%. And Monkey is here. Rodney says they suspect the Democrats intentionally denied Potato Joe his usual chemical cocktail. I bet you he had it because he was talking a mile a minute for a little bit and then trailed off slowly. And Puck says that Ted Cruz says Big Mike is replacing Biden. There's a lot of rumors about that, and we're going to get to it. But this is a very embarrassing moment, being led off stage this way. Let me see if I can get that reduced back the way it goes, and I'll show you here. Here he is stepping sideways Yeah, that's just one step. I don't know why they said 3. There's clearly one step there. And he stepped sideways. The guy on the left directed them where to step. And she's got his hand. Obviously, there's a problem there. But that'll lead into the next point here. The next point, because Jill Biden is the one clearly in charge. Clearly in charge. War Queen says that Biden broke the country and continues to be sorry, politically speaking. And Gary Edwards invokes Petticoat Junction. And there's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow. There you go. For those of you who remember Petticoat Junction, remember the sitcom Petticoat Junction. Let me stop this because this one is already up and running. Oh, that's why, because it's trying to jam an ad down my throat. You can't escape it anymore, ladies and gentlemen. The advertising is insane. I'm so tired of it. But I want to play this from start to finish because this really caught my attention. And I'm going to share this with you. Make sure everybody can see it. And of course, if you can't see it, you will be able to hear it. And this is after the event. Now you see him standing there with a big goofy grin on his face and his arms suspended forward again, which is often how he stands. And that is something that I've seen many times when I worked in mental health, and it's an effect of the medication often. And that's, I mean, if these guys are acting after this, because I've speculated on that, this could all be theater to alleviate the possibility of his ever having to own up to anything that he's done. And I see Carrick is here. Thanks for joining us today. And Flukeman says even Kent in the Young Turks says Biden needs to be removed and anyone in his administration that helps him should be fired. Yeah, and that's and you all know how disgustingly left-leaning that guy is if you've ever watched him. And Rodney says Brave Bowser has quite a good ad blocking built in. Might be worth a try. And then Tuck says only able to fill a seat, ATM on the phone with doctors. This is what really did it for me. If they're acting, this gets the Academy Award. Let me go ahead and run this bit. Let me try to. Here we go.
I can't thank you all enough for staying and for being here and for all your support. Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why? Yes. So, Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you because we have such a great group of support.
That's if you were paying attention there, if you caught that, I know it was kind of hard to hear her voice. But that whole, oh, Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. It felt like I was working in the daycare again. You know, it's how some people talk to a child. And you also see that in mental health when you're dealing with someone who has the mental faculties of a child. That they tell you to. I didn't do it because I don't agree with that method, but that is a method that is used to communicate with someone who's either very young or who is lacking in mental faculties. Juan says, checking in from Delaware, that debate was horrible. I've been here 7 years. We knew Biden was meh. Helter says, this is the type of response a mother gives her 5-year-old after a school play. There you go. War Queen says they like how Trump pointed out all the money that Biden has given away to other countries. It's very true. And Cyberjack has joined us. Puck says these people are evil. There's no shame. You're right. And Monkey says Joe got that old man stare. Yeah, that 1,000-yard stare, like you don't know where anything is. Like anytime he's not talking, he's seeing spirits. Oh, man. Wow. And Flukeman says TYT claims Trump ordered Republican governors to keep the border open just to get elected. It's possible Trump gave that order, but they didn't have anything to back it up. If he did get that order, I think they would have officially exposed it by now to make him look even worse. Because everything they've done with Trump has been to try to embarrass him at this point. But just the way she addressed him there, like I said, and there's a Bernabe has joined us today. The way that she addressed him there, if they are faking this, if they're faking senility or dementia for plausible deniability, just in case he's ever called to trial, then she should get an Oscar for that. Seriously. Just pandering to him in front of everybody. In front of everybody, and all these people are there cheering, woo, yeah, let's go, Joe, and 4 more years. 4 more years. I don't know if we can take 4 more years. I don't think we can handle it. And Dragon says he's heard of people saying that Jill committed elder abuse. Did she? Elder abuse. Well, she's an elder herself. How old is Jill Biden? Anyone know off the top of their head? I'm not sure of Jill Biden's actual age. I'm not sure of her actual age. But this is, it's just embarrassing. The whole thing is embarrassing. It really is. People may not like Trump, and, you know, I get it, but it's clearly a better choice than this. And the other options, because his party is essentially throwing him under the bus at this point after this debate. And they're showing you these options, but none of them are going to work. They've really kind of painted themselves into a corner. They can keep running Joe, okay, which is probably, Helter says Jill is 73. Thank you. I wasn't sure. And Rodney confirms that as well. But they can keep running Joe, which looks like he's going to lose. He'll probably lose the popular vote, which they could still elect him on the Electoral College, because we all know the popular vote doesn't really mean a damn thing. All right, it's a big lie. But if they elect him on the Electoral College, then people will cry foul again. They already suspect the last election. That's not going to go over well. And I see Mars has joined us today. Glad you could make it. The next option is to run the vice president, Kamala Harris, but nobody likes her. And they've said that they don't want to run Kamala because their explanation is, oh, well, America's so racist, it won't vote for a black woman, which she's not really black anyways, but you know, that's a whole nother topic of discussion. She's not really black. You can call her a person of color. I guess that's fair enough, but people do not like her. They don't like her. This is the woman who went to France and spoke to people with a French accent in English and made an ass of herself. She does that pretty much everywhere she goes. She's not well. They hate her more than they hate Joe. Then they said, oh, well, we can bring in Michelle Obama. All right. You can't run Michelle with Kamala. That's too much. You would have to get rid of Kamala too, because you're not going to have 2 females of color on the ticket. The Democrats aren't going to do that. Plus, if you get rid of Kamala, then you're admitting that she was only a diversity hire in the first place. And then that just doesn't look good. I know that Michelle Obama has repeatedly said, I don't want to run for office. I don't want to be on the ticket, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee she's a back burner Manchurian candidate. Okay. That's all for show. That you can't trust her saying she doesn't want it. It makes me think of, what is it? The Shakespeare play, is it the Ides of March? Where the guy who would be Caesar in the crowd, if I'm remembering the right play. I could be off on this. If anyone remembers their Shakespeare, you can correct me here. I'm paraphrasing anyway. I don't have it memorized. But he's in the crowd and they've got the laurel. Oh, you must wear the laurel. And he's like, alas, I cannot. The crown is too heavy for me. And they're begging him to take the crown and be Caesar. And he's like, oh, I cannot. It would not be right. But he really wants it. And this is why the people want to assassinate him. The secret group wants to assassinate him. That's Michelle Obama, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, she'll do it. And she wants it. If the puppet masters pull that string, she'll jump right in. Manchurian Candidate all the way. Puck says Hunter's art sales will plummet without Joe in office. Yeah, probably. And Chelsea says Robert Kennedy Jr. is running as a third candidate. I'm not too sure what he's about. I need to do more research. Watch his interview on Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock interviewed him for an hour on his channel. He's got a big YouTube channel. He's a former sports writer. I don't trust Kennedy Jr. at all. He did not answer one question. Every single question he was asked, I've talked about him before because people have asked me a few times. Every answer to every question was, well, that's because black people are impoverished in America, or that's because of the virus and what happened on account of the virus. And by the way, it affected black people more. I mean, everything was black people and the C virus. Everything. The only thing he's got going for him is that he doesn't like vaccinations, and that's because a vaccination screwed him up, and that's why he talks that way. Bernab says the Democrats are on a sinking ship. Just watch how they implode. They're going to eat each other up. The next option, and you already saw this because he was there, is Gavin Newsom. I call him Nuisance. Gavin Newsom, from the governor of California, was there. Why do you think he was there? They would love to run Newsom. They would love to run him, but everybody's scared of him because California is in the worst shape it's ever been, and it wasn't that great to begin with, but it's getting worse all the time. Nobody wants to see Newsom doing the job. Basically, putting Newsom in there, someone as bad as Joe but has all of his faculties intact, the synapses are firing, we'd have the United States would turn into Canada. Gary Edwards says the liberal pundits are calling for Biden to step down. He's a guaranteed loser in November. Yeah, but he could still win on the Electoral College. That's what counts. So a new Democrat candidate is probably warming up somewhere. Moki says, do you want to put Big Mike on the ballot? No. Mike Tyson. Monkey says, I heard some are trying to use Newsom, but the problem is the 12th Amendment, which says two presidents and vice president cannot reside in the same state as one another. It didn't stop them from hiring somebody from out of state before. When Newsom, I can't remember what's her name when she died, and he put someone in, but she lives in New Hampshire. And there's a big stink about that, but they didn't take her off. Mars says, one Latino fellow asked me, so what's up with the black jobs out here? I told him, hopefully getting deported just like the rest of you. Oh, no. And Sven said, yes, it was Beware the Ides of March. Thank you. Because, I don't have a script. I'm not reading a teleprompter. I pull all this stuff off the top of my head. Chelsea says his family didn't even endorse him, which is why I questioned it. I'm not sure what I think about him. Talking about Kennedy again. Well, they didn't endorse him because he didn't run as a Democrat, but he is a Democrat. He's born and bred Democrat politician, period. Born and bred politician, very left-leaning. He's not calling himself a Democrat, but that doesn't mean he's not. And Sven reminds us that Kennedy's anti-gun. And I see Chillin Dave has joined us. Chillin joined us here today as I catch up. Gary wants Bill Maher. Bill Maher is another sellout. Bill Maher blows in the wind with whatever direction will keep him earning a paycheck. Bill Maher is not to be trusted. He is not to be trusted. And Rodney says Newsom is a vile little man. He'd be worse than Joe. He would be worse than Joe. And a couple more here. Bernab says RFK is the same as any other Democrat. He calls everyone a victim and he will fix everything. Sure he will. Sure he will. That he's going to fix everything. He's going to fix the whole world. He'll fix it. Oh, yeah. Sometimes when you fix something, it's worse than when it started. Just look at California. California's ruined. Like I said, it was already bad. It's already bad. It was bad from before Schwarzenegger was governor, because he didn't leave it better than he found it either. The California, honestly, the state hasn't been run well since Reagan was in office. Let's wind that all the way back. Because remember, he was the governor of California before he beat Carter for the presidency. But since then, it's been slowly going down. But of course, you know, with anything that rolls downhill, the further it goes, the faster it picks up. Chelsea says they're in Oregon. They want very much to protect gun laws. I do think Project 2025 is a bit outrageous. But that's what's going on with old Stinky Joe there. Making things worse at every possible opportunity. The options do not look good at all. Like I said, nobody wants Kamala. No one wants Newsom. I absolutely would not, under any circumstance, trust Michelle. And I don't care what Michelle says. She is a last resort Manchurian candidate. Absolutely. I see Stuart has joined us here today. And Gary says that they think Jill Biden is the real president behind the scenes. Well, she's pulling Jill's strings, but that doesn't mean someone's not pulling hers. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there. And we're going to jump to a Newsweek article. I had mentioned something similar to Kamala Harris in Paris, but she did it on BET also, trying to act black enough, I guess, and made an ass of herself there. But Newsweek article, Kamala Harris mocked over BET Awards video, which was cringy. And there she is. Wow, she looks bad. And the makeup doesn't help. I always hate that. I always hate when they bury somebody in makeup to try to cover up flaws. This is not helping her. That look is not working. But whatever. I'll try to get off that and focus on the article. It says Elon Musk has criticized a video. I don't care if Elon Musk criticized it. I don't know why they got a name drop with stuff like this. That's why when the articles usually get to a point where they're reading other people's replies on X, I don't care. Just tell me what happened. So here we are. The Vice President Kamala Harris appeared, a video that Vice President Kamala Harris appeared in during Sunday's BET Awards, in which she referenced Kendrick Lamar and Drake's recent rap feud. In a pre-recorded clip alongside the Empire star Taraji P. Henderson, I don't know who that is, who served as the awards show host, Harris was seen discussing political issues on a video call in the run-up to November's presidential election, after bringing up the fact that she and Henderson are graduates of Howard University. That means nothing anymore. Harris asked Henderson what was on her mind, prompting the actress to sigh, "Oh, Madam Vice President Harris, I'm worried about the election." Yeah, that was staged. That's a loaded question, loaded answer. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Our Supreme Court is on the line. Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam Vice President. I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing? Oh my God. That's all stage. She was reading that off a card. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Oh, don't get me started. Really don't. And the Supreme Court, when has it not been corrupt? Quote, Kamala Harris, "Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets." That's how she got the job. Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets, Harris responded. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraj. There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom and equality. But these extremists, as they say, they not like us. Uh-huh. You go, girl. The line was a reference to Lamar's diss track, They Not Like Us. I don't know what that is. Some crappy rap song that I probably wouldn't understand a damn thing they're saying, which capped a heated feud between the rapper and his rival Drake. The track quickly became a chart-topping hit, not hard to do anymore, for Lamar, who was largely seen as having emerged the victor following the high-profile war of words. I never heard anything about any of that. Harris's BET Awards clip was posted on X by journalist Alec Berenson, who quoted some of the vice president's statement before opening, "This is so bad." And then they blither on here with what a bunch of people said about it on X. I don't care. Let me see. Elsewhere in the clip, Harris also says, quote, "There's a full-on attack on our fundamental freedoms, the freedom to vote." Oh, Jesus Christ. Excuse me, folks. The freedom to vote, I'm so sick of hearing that. The freedom to love who you love. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body and not having her government tell her what to do. Uh-huh. She accused also Republicans of wanting to, quote, turn back the clock on our hard fight progress, or hard fought progress, excuse me, before calling on people to register to vote. Is there anyone who's not registered to vote? You know they automatically register you now, right? Because we've been through that in Georgia. I've talked about that at length. When you go to the DMV now, I think in every state, I could be wrong. In most, if not every state now, you're automatically registered, whether you want it or not. And then you have to go through this process of getting unregistered after the fact, which my wife spent a couple of months trying to do some time ago and gave up, and tried again recently. And they told her she was off the registration, but then she started getting a ton of like texts and emails and cards in the mail, including a voter registration card. It's like, how can I get a voter registration card if I was taken off? Mars says Kamala Harris, in the words of Austin Powers, "It's a mask, baby." Yeah, it's a man. Helter says she's basically belittling black people with this display. It's an insult at the lowest level. Yeah, it's talking down. Chelsea says, at this point, I think she's a clone or a robot. She's never around. When we never see her, we never hear her talk, and when she does, it's nothing of substance. So I catch up a few comments here. Dragon says Harris had the people locked up for smoking pot. Ironic that she admits that she smokes pot. She also said, is quoted recently, as was Biden, that people should not be languishing in prison because of smoking weed. It's their laws that they signed off on that put people there. But they shouldn't be there, huh? All right. Glad. Chelsea says, we are also not young either, so I don't expect older people to listen to the same music or care about the same trending topics. And Spectre is here. Glad you could make it. And Fluke Man says, the freedom to do whatever you want until you want to vote for Trump. Yeah, freedom to do whatever you want as long as it's something that's in this box that we provided for you. When you do anything outside of the box, when you choose something that we don't agree with, then we will cancel you and relentlessly attack you until you kill yourself or conform or go away someplace where you'll never be seen or heard from again. So that's just a lie. It's not freedom. You know, people do want freedom. They want to be left the hell alone too. They want to be left somewhere else. They want to be left the hell alone. And Rodney says that Harris is a word salad generator. Yeah, pretty much, because a lot of what she says doesn't make sense. She panders. She changes her accent. She uses phrasing that she thinks is going to connect with the people. Excuse me. It's embarrassing. Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. Have you seen her walking around anywhere talking to the people? Oh my God. These people are so far out of touch with the so-called common man, it's frightening. But they make all the decisions for us, don't they? They make all the decisions for us. And you can vote them out, but will you get anything that's any better? And it's always the same talking points. It's always the same talking points. Full-on attack on fundamental freedoms, the freedom to vote. Who is stopping you from voting? I get so sick of that, especially being in Georgia and listening to all of that nonsense about the voting all the time. And, oh, they're trying to keep black folk from voting. I want to see the voting outlet anywhere in Georgia, especially in the Atlanta area where the largest concentration of black people live in the state of Georgia is in the Atlanta area. I want to see where you've got a row of like 500 guys with baseball bats out there keeping the black folk out. It's not happening. As a matter of fact, it's black people that run most of those places. There's a voting station not too far from where I am. Everybody out there is black. Who's keeping you from voting? Oh, because they want ID. You got ID for everything else. You can't get a job. You can't get a bank account. You can't get a driver's license. You can't get Social Security or welfare benefits. You can't get insurance. You can't get anything without being able to prove who you are. But whatever. And Brian says there is no land of the free. It's just some quote written on the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, pretty much. And Sven says gun control and abortion tactics are aimed against black communities. But I get so tired of hearing that one, the freedom to vote. No one is stopping you from voting. No one is stopping you from voting. The freedom to love who you love. That is a nod to the alphabet group, the alphabet crew. I mean, you know that. And who's stopping that anymore? There used to be laws against it when it was considered a mental illness. And that it's a long story, but you can research this. There are documentaries on the subject. The panel that votes on what diseases are what, psychologically speaking, excuse me, what counts as a mental health issue, was infiltrated by groups of gay psychologists as far back as the 1980s, and they changed the rule, basically. And the reason it was considered mental health is because a lot of the people who were arrested for molestation, shall we say, were of that group. This is why. Without getting too deep into it, because, the algorithm will give me a hard time. But you can find documentaries on the subject. But now, the way the laws are, who's stopping you? The freedom to be safe from gun violence. I am safe from gun violence. I dare you to shoot at me. The freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body, blah, 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 without the government telling us what to do. The government tells you what to do with everything else anyway. Unbelievable. And Mars says, can we afford a car and insurance of any kind nowadays? Well, I guess so. Somebody can. And Puck says he remembers the new Black Panther members were standing around polling stations with ball bats. They got away with it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's different. That's different. But we'll jump to Paris. As I brought this up earlier, Daily Mail article. Listen, Paris is burning for like about 8 years now, so this should come as no surprise to anyone. Protests sweep Paris as Macron is defeated by Le Pen's national rally. Yeah, look at those images. Paris is burning again. Hold still. The article jumped. French President Emmanuel Macron and his allies this morning launched a fresh week of intense campaigning hours after their party was humiliated last night in the first round of parliamentary elections by the hard-right National Rally. Rioting engulfed in the streets of Paris last night as thousands of enraged left-leaning voters set light to rubbish, smashed up shop windows, and launched fireworks at the Marine Le Pen's RN steamed to victory with 33% of the first round vote. Hordes of riot police were dispatched across the city, particularly in the French capital's Place de la République, where the police clashed with flare-toting rioters into the early hours of the morning. So the people that are rioting are the far-left, weepy people that want peace and love. Just making the point. Macron's prime minister, Gabriel Attal, who is likely to be forced to resign after the second round, warned that the right was now at the gates of power and implored voters to block the RN in the second round set for Sunday, July 7th. So that kind of implies revolution. But Macron's centrist alliance is languishing in the distant third place with just 20% of the vote behind the left-wing New Popular Front alliance on 28%. Le Pen late last night gleefully declared that Macron's party had been wiped out as she celebrated the victory, with the RN now targeting an absolute majority in the second round of elections this coming Sunday. See all the rainbow flags in the background? There's a French flag up front. That's rainbow flags. These are the people that are burning Paris down right now. But there's always somebody burning down Paris. Again, I think it's been off and on riots for almost a decade. Such a victory would mark the first time a hard right force has taken power in France since World War II amid the occupation by Nazi Germany, a fact not lost on left-wing politician Raphael Glucksmann, a key figure in the left-wing alliance, said solemnly this morning, quote, we have 7 days to spare France from catastrophe. Macron had stunned the nation and baffled some allies earlier this month when he called snap polls after the RN trounced his centrist forces in European Parliament elections this month. Some analysts speculated that the unexpected move could catch the RN off guard and help Macron's centrist party to appeal to citizens as a stabbing force amid the chaos. They're basically calling for a revolution. And, you know what? The left has been in charge since the German occupation. How's that worked out for France? How's it worked out? Anybody want to chime in on that? Brian says they also try to make up the lie of Republicans want to ban all abortions, including molestation reasons. Yeah, that's not true. Most women who get an abortion are just, who use it as birth control. I've talked about that before, that there's way too many people that use it as retroactive birth control rather than being responsible in the moment. You were both there. You could have said, no, we're not doing that today. And you chose to do what you did and then decided to just dispose of the child because it was an inconvenience. I mean, there are circumstances whereby I understand where a woman would have a legitimate desire for such a thing. But I dare say most of them, that's not the case. Rodney says Le Pen is hardly far right. It's just a term that leftists use to smear anyone that doesn't support them. And Monkey says with people rioting over the first round, it will make people vote for the national rally. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. A lot of elections coming up. Lots of elections coming up. It's interesting to look to Paris every once in a while. Looper was right. Who saw the film Looper? Anybody? With what is his name? Who was the actor that was in Looper? Now I'm gonna get stumbled up here. The actor who played Looper, the same actor from Die Hard, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis was in Looper, and it was a time travel movie. And there was a guy who was from the future, and the person who would eventually become the young version, I should say, of Bruce Willis's character. When he retires, he's going to go live in Paris, and the guy's like, don't go to Paris, go to Hong Kong. And he was like, but I want to go to Paris. And he says, I'm from the future. Don't go to Paris. Stay out of France. Trust me. And in the future, in that timeline, I think the movie was Looper, right? Anyone see that? Paris was just destroyed. It was like a third world country. And Flukeman confirms it was Bruce Willis. And Mars says, I guess France's independence is not looking good. Well, keep in mind, France is a socialist country. So, and Monkey wants to know what's Project 2025. Anyone want to chime in on that? Because I'm not too clear on it myself. Remains to be seen how things work out for France. It doesn't look good. France has been a disaster for years. There's nothing new here. There's nothing new here. Nothing new under the sun as far as France is concerned, unfortunately. Riots have been increasing. They've had more problems ever since the borders were thrown open. We all know how that works. Really, the largest influx of migrants, illegal immigrants, in Europe started in 2017, and it's been picking up steam ever since. And it's beyond a tipping point. It's beyond a tipping point. And the Survival Buzz has joined us. Thanks for coming in today. Glad you could make it. Glad you could make it. But yeah, France is burning. And Cyberjack Senior says that they saw Looper. Joseph Gordon-Levitt played young Willis. Yeah. And he wanted to go to Paris, right? He was learning French. And the guy kept telling him, dude, I'm from the future. You do not want to be in Paris. Looks like that was a truth in fiction there. A little truth in fiction. Monkey says he had to use many special words to get around YouTube. Guess it's something controversial. I don't know. There are certain things you can't say or can't search for. Phrases that you can't use that you wouldn't suspect. And I could tell you one, but if you were tempted to look it up, and it's the simplest thing in the world, if you were to look it up, you would get red flagged. Big time. You'd get in a lot of trouble. But yeah, it's kind of funny the way that all works. But we'll talk about something that ScrewTube would approve of. Farts. That's right. We're going to talk about flatulence. Now I'll get a thumbs up from the algorithm. Not the kind that you think. This is a CNN article. World's first carbon tax on livestock will cost farmers $100 per cow. Carbon tax on cattle. This is Denmark, by the way. So we're going to take a jump from Paris to Denmark. So here we go. Dairy farmers in Denmark face having to pay an annual tax of 672 krone, which is $96 per cow, for the planet heating emissions that they generate. Yeah. What about the flatulence that every other creature on Earth produces? You know, every mammal on the planet produces methane. Every mammal on the planet produces methane. All of them. You knew that, right? Just saying. The country's coalition government agreed this week to introduce the world's first carbon emissions tax on agriculture. It will mean that there will be new levies on livestock starting in 2030. Oh, so they have 6 years to get their shit together. pun intended. Denmark is a major dairy and pork exporter, and the agriculture is the country's biggest source of emissions. That's absolutely ridiculous. The coalition agreement, which also entails investing 40 billion krone, or $3.7 billion, in measures such as reforestation and establishing wetlands, is aimed at helping the country meet its climate goals. You know, all they've done is pen these animals up. There are not more bovines on the planet now than there were, say, 200 years ago. All right. Back when a herd of bison, for example, which are also bovine, buffalo is what they're normally called, but they're technically bison, the American bison. It used to be on the nickel. When a herd could have more than 1 million animals in it, when a herd could take 9 days to pass through an area. No joke. During the rise of the American West, they shot almost all of them, which is pitiful, but that's another topic of discussion. There's no more bovine on the planet now than there were 200 or 300 years ago. They're just kept in a different way. You know, whatever emissions that the mammals on this planet produce is no different than however it might have been hundreds of years ago. But they're gonna bullshit you, and they're gonna create a tax for what? It says the Danish dairy industry broadly welcomed the agreement and its goals, but it has angered farmers. The Danish dairy industry welcomed the agreement, but it angered farmers. Then, since I guess the political wing of the dairy industry is in agreement because they're going to get something out of it. The move comes just months after farmers held protests across Europe, blocking roads with tractors and pelting the European Parliament with eggs over a long list of complaints, including gripes about environmental regulations and excessive red tape. Looks like they were right. The global food system is a huge contributor to the climate crisis, producing around a third of greenhouse gases emissions. There's no way for them to accurately measure that. There's no way. There's no way they can accurately measure that. Livestock farming has a particularly big impact, accounting for around 12% of global emissions in 2015, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. Now, we read an article about something like this maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and that number is not accurate. But also, you can find different versions of the percentage of how many emissions are coming from livestock with different organizations. They just happened to pick one that gave them a bigger number. And Mars is shocked, $100 per cow. Yep. Raccoon says, what about fireworks? I'm sure they cause more damage to the ozone than cow farts. I have no idea. But I mean, it's a load of crap. No pun intended that time. And Puck reminds us that we'll be eating bugs and be happy. Yeah, he won't eat any. He'll still get a nice fat steak. And Rodney says, we are the carbon they want to eliminate. I agree. And Helter says a tax on food production will only raise food costs. People still have to eat. Correct. People will start dying because they can't afford to eat anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if people are forced to eat bugs. And Dragon says, what's next? A tax for breathing. Hey, watch out, because it's coming. It's coming. It also lays out a plan here. I'll just look at this really quick. A plan here for the gradual increase of that tax. So from 2030 to 2035, it'll increase by an additional $7. So it'll go from 100 to 107 in 2035, basically implying that they're counting on continuing to increase that tax gradually. They've already planned for it. They're not trying to help anybody. They just want to keep increasing the tax. And Raccoon reminds us about the Beatles song, "The Taxman." Well, coming from the UK, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Also, it reminds me of a sketch from Monty Python where the Parliament was sitting around a table trying to debate what to tax next. And they were like, we could tax, thingy, thingy. And then the guy says, you mean poo-poos? And then he was like, no, not poo-poos. And he says, good, because I got to go. And he runs out of the room. But when they said thingy, they meant sex. And they were trying to see if there was a way they could tax people for having sex. And Tuck says that just makes me want put up more food. You should. Everybody should have a stocked pantry. I believe that. However much you can manage to safely put away and keep in rotation, because not everybody has a lot of space. But you should, at the very bare minimum, have 3 months worth of emergency food put away. It's a good place to start, and it's manageable even in an apartment environment. And Flukeman says Denmark lawyers would be the first to complain if there was no more steak and burgers. The farmers stop breeding them, and they'll promote lab meat but avoid eating it themselves. And there is actually, Italy just banned lab grown meat. Lab grown meat. That's scary stuff. That is some scary stuff. They're basically, yeah. If you've ever seen this, we talked about it at length a few months back. The whole lab grown meat process. It's some kind of rudimentary protein gel that they take T cells from an animal from and impregnate the gel with it, and this synthetic protein, whatever it is, copies the T cells and produces this this meat, I guess, for lack of a better description. It's not really meat, but it is. And it's technically meat because it clones the T cell and produces just flesh and nothing else. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. And Puck says lab grown meat is essentially a cancerous tumor. Yeah. Yeah. In a manner of speaking, it is. It's like a weird tumor. And it looks, and I guess tastes like meat. I have no idea. I have no idea. And Mars says eating lab meat, no wonder why people are acting crazy nowadays. And it's being done in a lot of places. I know that KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, was at the forefront of that with their 3D printed chicken nuggets that they've been experimenting with in China for years now. They've been 3D printing fake chicken in China. I read an article about that some time ago. And there's several other places where this is being accepted. Another good example of that is Beyond Meat, I think is the brand in the United States. Beyond Meat is some kind of Frankenstein 3D printed meat substance, because it's supposed to be for vegetarians, but it uses an enzyme that simulates blood in their lab grown meat. It's scary stuff. I did a one-up video on that on the Coffee Talk channel some time ago, because it's scary, and they brag about it. You can go to their website. I think it's Beyond Meat. Is it Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger? Thank you. Monkey says it's Impossible Burger. I wasn't sure. It's Impossible Burger. No, Tuck, you don't miss KFC. You miss Kentucky Fried Chicken, because ever since they changed the title, ever since they hyphenated it, has not been the same, has it? But they brag, Impossible Burger. Thank you, Monkey. They brag right on the webpage that, yeah, we did like crazy GMO experiments with rudimentary proteins and made this scary shit that we're feeding people. I wouldn't be surprised to find out a few generations from now that it caused major defects. And I'll treat everybody here real quick before I sign off. If you didn't notice, sitting in the chair back there, our newest, oh, he's so drowsy. He's barely awake. Look at him. I picked him up and he's still knocked out. Our newest little guy. This is the one, his paws have healed, but they're permanently discolored. They're not black anymore when the scabs came off because his feet were burned. This is the kitten that someone found in the engine of their car. They drove to work and they kept hearing a weird noise and crying and weird sounds. And they went to like AutoZone for them to check it out. And they opened it up and they found him in there clinging and, you know, burning basically. But so they brought him to me, asked me if I could take him. This makes number 20 that we're currently taking care of. And he's doing much better now. But his front paws are permanently discolored from the burns. But the burns are healed, and he's doing great. He's doing great. Rambunctious little guy. He loves to run all over the place and play. One more look. There he is, everybody. This is why I do it right here. Oh, my friend, I'll put you back in the chair so you can sleep. And with that, I will go ahead and sign off. Again, you were listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find me Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University on YouTube, as well as Coffee Talk at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter. So special thanks to Rodney, who made a donation to the channel today. Very much appreciated. Thank you to everyone else who was able to join us here today. Glad you could make it. Hope you got something out of the conversation.